McCarthyism is the corruption of truth, the abandonment of the due process of law. It is the use of the big lie and the unfounded accusation against any citizen in the name of Americanism or security. It is the spread of fear. Former President Harry S. Truman. I think this quote from the ex-president Truman perfectly describes what McCarthyism is. McCarthyism is a period of anti-communist sentiment in the United States. The movement is defined by the fear of communists secretly infiltrating the country. The term McCarthyism comes from the senator Joseph McCarthy, who is the face of the movement. He used aggressive tactics and accusations against people he claimed were communists. McCarthyism began after World War II. The Second World War left high tensions between the US and other countries, especially the Soviet Union. There were a bunch of events that highlighted this tension, like for example the Soviet Union being able to detonate a nuclear bomb and China becoming part of the Soviet Union as well. This led to a giant fear among the American people that communists were infiltrating their country too. This is when the Senator Joseph McCarthy stepped in and caused widespread panic and fear within the country. To understand McCarthyism, we have to look at the causes and consequences. Let's start with the economic. The main economic cause for McCarthyism was the fear that the communists were infiltrating the country, specifically in the government. This infiltration from the communists into the United States, and specifically the United States government, would result in endangering the American way of life and the economic system of the United States, which is capitalism. Okay, so now we have to look at the economic consequences that McCarthyism brought to the US. The first obvious consequence was that McCarthyism led to thousands of job losses across the whole country. Around 10,000 people that were employed at their companies and at their jobs were fired because they weren't politically desirable. And because of this, they lost their jobs, then their ability to live. Also, apart from losing their jobs, they were also blacklisted. So this way, they couldn't get any other job in the country because they were thought of as communist and politically undesirable. So now let's take a look at the sociocultural causes for McCarthyism. There were many sociocultural causes for McCarthyism. One of these was that communism was seen as a threat to the American way of life, which invoked values of individualism and democracy, and of course, capitalism. But that's more economic. The risk of more communist countries and states, like the Soviet Union and Canada, fueled the paranoia of the American people, who desired to protect their American way of life. Now let's take a look at the sociocultural consequences that McCarthyism brought. The first consequence was obviously the widespread fear and paranoia that the Senator Joseph McCarthy invoked in the people of the U.S., which led to a culture of suspicion, fear, and accusations. Apart from this, there were also infringements in civil liberties because people were getting unrightfully fired from their jobs because of their political ideology, and the reputation of these people were also being damaged because of the blacklist they have for politically undesirable people in the US.
Causes. So America, as a Republican country in that time, was completely against communist people. Because of this, Senator McCarthy created this kind of loyalty program where people were forced to show that they were not communist, but of course this created a lot of false accusations and discrimination with people and being fake accused of being a communist. All of this because of the Cold War and the start of the new communist China. Consequences. So of course, this loyalty program that McCarthy had created had huge consequences in the United States during the 1940s and 50s. All this because people were losing their jobs because of false accusations of being communist people, liberal people also being accused of communists, and all this without any evidence. And kind of people didn't have the right to disagree with what was going on in the country. Number one, how did the post-World War II effects affected the public's understanding of communism, and how did this understanding play a role in McCarthyism? Second question is, how did the fear of communism in the United States impacted the country's relationship with other countries, specifically with the communist ones? And our third and final question is, how did the economic consequences of McCarthyism, such as job loss and blacklisting, affected the broader American workforce and economy during that time and nowadays? How did McCarthyism affected today's world, and how did it affect the way of people seeing a government? So because of all of this fake accusations, all of this authoritarian government regime, and the excessive use of government power created a lot of low trust in governments and misinformation in governments. And so people nowadays have very low trust in governments. And now with the technology and all of the sources that we have to get informed, well, people don't believe in any of that stuff, because people don't believe in governments anymore because of McCarthyism. Well, kind of.